And really is very simple. We are having a formal hearing about this application. We have the people that are the applicant, and we also have the opposition. We also have a variety of witnesses. We are in the process of going through those witnesses, one of which has been the doctor, who we're not done with, who will come back at a later time. That's the applicant. We also have the engineer here tonight, and we also have the architect. Those are the two people that we've heard direct testimony from, and we are in the process of having other questions being asked of them, starting with the board members. And the way simple, whenever we have a witness, the attorney for the applicant will present what they want from that witness. The opposition attorneys have a right for cross-examination. When they are done, it then swings around the board. The board then asks whatever questions they want to have. Once the board gets done, then I open it up to the public, and if anybody in the public wants to ask questions to the witnesses that we have, you will have to get up, give us your name, and ask the question, and we'll get a response.
Dr. Schwab. So we have two witnesses that if we can get to them, that would be great.
So we understand, we're going to go until about 10:30 as we have done, okay? So we'll move this along rather quickly. We'll have Mr. O'Brien and your other witness come back up here, because we did them jointly last time for reasons we discussed at the last meeting. When we get done with them.
A question was asked about the loft over the barn, in the barn, right? And how that would be used. And the position of Dr. Schwab is that it will not be used in any way in connection with the tasting room or any type of display. Right now, it's like any other part of the barn that's just vacant and not being used. They really have no particular use in mind for it, but it will not be used in conjunction, you know.
Is that your
to Shana several items that I believe she probably distributed to you folks, and they were numbered. Unfortunately, the first thing that I numbered and gave to you was a steep slope analysis, and I had submitted that into evidence last time. The steep slope analysis we did. The steep slopes on the property are at the ingress and the egress. And in that area, per the township ordinance, we identified areas which were greater than 25% steep slope. And that totaled 6,460 square feet. Then within that steep slope area, we are going to be regrading the driveways. The ingress, the driveway in, the egress, the driveway out. And we're going to be disturbing, within those steep areas, 198 square feet. And they are as we cut back on the driveway going up into the property. So our disturbance within that steep slope represents 3.06% of the steep slope area. So that's, I just wanted to reiterate that. And I have why. That was secured in 2018.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Two on my list of Friday was the freshwater wetlands letter of interpretation. And I had testified 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, that we were not disturbing any areas within several hundred feet of the freshwater wetlands. The LOI that I submitted, that I submitted last week, is a vineyard identification map. And I know a question was raised very early in Dr. Schwab's testimony as to the fact that he has to have 3 acres of vineyard area. Currently, he has vineyards on the south side of the driveway, south side of the proposed area. And that is identified on number 3 of the evidence I submitted to Shana the other day. That's the vineyard information.
What exhibit was that?
Assessed by Emergency Services. And it was in Bill Burr's letter that came out on March 10th.
So, before we do that, Mr. Gray.
In Bill's letter, I'm not sure exactly which item number it was, he wanted to see a template that shows how the fire trucks would enter and exit the site. I went upstairs after the meeting, measured the fire truck that's there. And so I put together a fire truck turning and parking layout sheet. This was Again, this was submitted last week. And what it identifies is a fire truck, the shortest route from, over here, right here, from this firehouse over to the site is up through town, across Fleet Town, and then down Colebrook Road. So the entrance from the fire truck into the site will be through our egress. And so I show the fire truck turning radius going into the site. Then, as the fire truck turns right into the site, there's a bare left where he's going to come over towards the winery operation. And then he's going to continue around between barn number 1 and 2, and then heading down the egress. What we found was that, as proposed, we're not proposing to widen the driveway. And that was in Bill's first letter. But we found that the fire truck wouldn't be able to make that turn without driving onto the grass. So we're going to now widen the driveway between barns number 1 and 2 so that the fire truck can stay on the road surface. And I've identified on the top of this sheet the north circle, the entry circle, entering that turn, and the south circle, the exit circle, which was a resubmission to Shana. And in that letter, we had evaluated the water use from the site. Water use was a consideration that seemed to arise in testimony. And we had submitted back at that time the well report, from Calaluch Well, about the well yield. And so what we did is we went through, we did a water demand calculation. And I just reiterated it here. It's highlighted on the letter that everybody got.
Referring to page 2?
Begins on the bottom of page 2 with the
Number
highlighting,
8.
but the analysis is
number
on
8.
page 3. Pardon me?
Page 2, number 8.
That is a four-bedroom residential dwelling. I'm sorry to reiterate. There's a common well that serves the residential lot, which is lot 4, and the proposed winery in lot 4.01. So the common well, we had the test done, and we showed that the well has capacity of 19 gallons per minute when pumping against, I believe it was 60 psi. So the four-bedroom house has a demand of 650 gallons per day. The wine tasting, we were figuring at that point 25 patrons with a 10-gallon per day use for the patrons. At that point, we were looking at both restroom use and if there had been any food service. And so that's the worst case. We're not having food service, but we still use 25 patrons and 10 gallons per day per patron. That's another 250 gallons per day. We had employees. At that point, there was only 2 employees, but there were 15 gallons per day per employee, which was 30 gallons per day, and the wine production itself estimated to be 200 gallons per day. So their total average demand was 1,130 gallons per day, including the residential and the wine. Now the Safe Drinking Water Act, which is the DEP's way of regulating water supplies, says that for wells and pumps, we have to have 10 times that daily demand. In this case, that would be 11,300 gallons per day. And that's an equivalent of 7.85 gallons per minute. The well can yield 19, so our well yield of 19 gallons per minute more than exceeds double the demand. So we feel that that's okay.
Is this already marked, this document?
We've actually developed this to support Mr. Harder's testimony, which will be coming up. What this is a sightlines plan. And what this does the egress from the property onto Colebrook Road. The township ordinance requires a sight line of 200 feet in either direction from a point 10 feet back from the edge of the pavement. So, as a person is driving out, they want to be able to look down the road to the south, up the road to the north, for a minimum of 200 feet in any direction. The height of eye is the person sitting in their car, 3.5 feet off the ground. They want to see the other car 3.5 feet off the ground. And what we wanted to show here is that the sight lines are undisturbed and that we're not going to have to regrade along the edge of the property to accommodate those sight lines. So I show the first sheet is the actual grades, and more telling, the second couple of pages are color photographs. The first one is looking north on Colebrook Road. You can see that it's a very clear sight line up to the crest of the hill. And the final sheet is looking south down Colebrook Road. And again, you can see that there's a clear sight line in that direction.
No disrespect intended. We're here on behalf of concerned residents, and while it does appear to be opposition, we're representing residents of this municipality, and I'm not sure if opposition is the correct term. And well, the last time.
So your site distance plan that was submitted as part of the documents that were submitted on Friday, is that correct?
No, that's a new document submitted
Sir,
tonight.
nobody can hear you, so.
That plan, that site distance plan was just submitted today?
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. And so obviously it wasn't submitted 10 days prior. I suspect that there are interested parties or residents who are here who might want to look at that, who probably didn't know it was submitted and haven't had a chance to look at it. And I would ask if you would be available to come back to discuss that plan at some point in the future of that site distance plan that you prepared and that it has been introduced and that you discussed.
I put it together to support our traffic engineer's testimony. And I don't know what he's going to testify, but he and I had conversations as to whether or not the site distance would accommodate the Tewksbury Township land use ordinance, which requires a 200-foot distance in either direction from a point 3.5 feet off the ground, 10 feet back from the edge of the travelway. And that's what I put it together for, to assist him.